We knew the show was going to be about Clancy's malfunctioning multiverse simulator, and we knew there was going to be apocalypse is happening. And so we had 2 weeks where we just came up with ideas for how the world could end. What if there was a world that used meat instead of electricity to light shit? And then what if there were like terrorists who fucked that up? You just sort of decode and unpack what that would look like if it fell apart. We just came up with these beats for the journey that Clancy was going on with his guests. And then we took the podcast dialogue and tried to attach it to those beats. It's a very psychedelic show that had this team of just genius artists that all wanted to work with Pendleton, who all just poured their soul into the thing. It is a podcast, but we didn't want that to be what we led with. We wanted it to feel like a natural conversation that was happening, but that was really challenging. We showed them 3 minutes. That was our proof of concept with the president in 101. Netflix is like, yeah, well, let's do 8. And then it's like, shit. Will this even work for 20 minutes? They really rolled the dice. We didn't know if people would respond to it, and we're so thrilled that people love it. We didn't know, man. There's no precedent. There's like waking life and stuff, but we didn't know how people would take it. When you're merging with 120 people in an animation studio, and I don't know if y'all have ever met animators, man, but these are like spaceship pilots. They're deep in it, man. So what starts happening is they start hearing things in the dialogue that maybe you didn't hear and pulling it out, like creating moments that show their interpretation of what's being said. Sometimes when I'm watching it, I'm like, holy shit, they're like kind of making fun of me right now. Like that was, you know what I mean? Like, what happens when you're making stuff? I don't know where it came from. I was in the shower, blast on Dynamite. I saw meat rolling through tubes of some alien city. Was that just my brain malfunctioning, or did I tune into some part of the universe where that's really happening? One thing that really annoys me is when someone zings out the tarot cards, like the cards are telling the future. Really, tarot cards are a reflection, and you're seeing this shit that you don't want to really deal with. The interpretations are so infinite that you're just going to see yourself in it. I want it to be a Rorschach ink block test for people. I want it to be a way that you can see shit that's inside of you that we didn't intend. My mom, after she passed, all these people gathered at the house that I had never met, like so many of her clients. And I realized like, wow, we're like 2 multiverses away from my mom having been a cult leader. As far as being a child of a therapist, there's pros and cons. Pros are that this is a person who's going to be very familiar with the stages that kids go through. The cons are going to be like, this is a person who's really, really good at witnessing micro gestures. I try lying. She was bringing weird fucking tests for me to do, like a Stranger Things kit, Rorschach ink block test, or determining your personality, or all that stuff. Overall, it was great in the sense that I think it helped open my eyes a little bit to how deep a human being is. I studied psychology in school because of her. I knew we were going to use the episode for the show, and Penn and I went to talk about it. I remember I ordered tequila, and Penn, man, he's the coolest person ever. His response when I ordered the tequila is he goes, yeah. And then I'm drinking it. I'm just trying to like sit there with him and like, we're gonna have to make an episode about my mom passing. And how are we gonna do that? Because what am I gonna do? Sit in the editing bay, just like crying while people are trying to do like hard edits? We worked out a way where I could be a little further back from that process. But even then, I'm like, fuck, man, I hope I'm not making a terrible mistake. I hope I'm not disgracing my mother. But she would have advised that, I think, or she would have said, just trust this. When I finally did watch the animated episode, it was one of the most powerful moments of my life. They brought my mom back to life. They caught her spirit. To me, that's proof there is some form of magic. You know, we all have mentors. Lineage of Buddhism I'm in, you celebrate that. That's not a thing you try to imagine didn't happen. Our teachers are so important. And Rogan, he was taking me on the road before I should have been on stage. He thought I was a horrible, monstrous puppet named Lil Hobo. This is still Fear Factor day. So like Rogan's getting people who don't know about stand-up who are just like, I want to go see the Fear Factor guy tell jokes. And suddenly, right before that guy comes out, there's this weirdo on stage, his eyes rolling backwards with like a puppet that's like yelling like, hail Satan. And he thought it was funny. I was the talent coordinator at the Comedy Store, and he was just calling, and we get in these conversations on the phone that are identical to what we talk about now on the podcast. Like he would call, he was probably stoned, I was probably stoned, and then we just start talking about like Terrence McKenna and float tanks on the phone. We weren't recording it. I don't think we even knew what a podcast was at the time. The show is about a simulation. And anytime I really ponder it too much, I'm like, well, this is obviously a simulation, because how the fuck do I get to have this happen? It doesn't seem like this could be real. But I really hope it inspires people to keep following their heart, man. Because when I was doing my podcast, I did not have that level of aspiration. I never was like, one day the guy who made Adventure Time is going to hit me up and we're going to make a show together. And I guess it's like throwing a message in the bottle when you're on an island. And then all of a sudden, this magical boat filled with cats pulls up. And it's Pendleton Ward who's like, get on, come here, I want to show you something. And then it's like getting abducted by a wizard, basically. That happened to me. And if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody.